Alright, so what's up guys, it's your boy Danchou, and for today we are back at it again with another Granblue Fantasy video. Today I wanted to talk about one of the most important things for beginners, which would be your weapon grids. I noticed in my time helping beginners in my Discord, a lot of beginners tend not to understand what grids do for them and how they should go about this. So I figured it would be time for me to step up and make a video on the basic understandings of weapon grids when starting out this game. This makes it so that beginners watching this video at least have a general guideline on how their grids should look. In this video I will talk about the very basics of weapon grids, and if this video gets received well, I will make sure to make videos on every element and the recommended beginner grids. So if you guys are interested in those videos, then please let me know in the comments down below. Now just before we dig in, I just wanted to say that if you do enjoy Granblue Fantasy or Granblue Fantasy Versus content, then you might want to consider hitting that sub button, as I do cover both games. I will always try to keep you guys updated with everything as fast as possible surrounding these games, so any support will be greatly appreciated. With all the typical YouTuber talk out the way, let's get into the video. Now as a beginner, the quickest way to increase your power is to improve your weapon and summon grid. Often when beginners look at their weapon grid, it's one big mystery to them, as they aren't sure what to do with it and either just slap random weapons in with the highest stats or just let the game decide by auto select function, which won't give the proper results. Fortunately, as a beginner but also as a Granblue player in general, every element has a farmable aka free to play option which performs respectively even when compared to the more exclusive builds. Ultimately, the free to play options can tackle any content in the game. The grid example I will be using for today's video is a skeleton based on the grids that are commonly called Omega 1 aka M1 grids, M being the first letter of Magna, which is the Japanese wording for Omega. They are called M1 grids due to their focus on the Omega weapon skills from raids that are unlocked before rank 101. Rank 101 is the first time players will get to meet HL content, which stands for high level. High level in this case will mean the impossible raids for M1, which will be the Leviathan tier raids respectively. The M1 grids represent developed grids using weapons that can be obtained before reaching rank 101, but it can also include weapons from rotating events and side stories. These weapons can practically always be replaced for more accessible alternatives if needed. So first things first, I want to point out 3 points that I'd like to make clear before I advance explaining grids more in depth, as these 3 points are as follows. 1. Weapon skills are the most important to a weapon grid, regardless of player level. 2. Attack skills are generally the most important when it comes down to weapon grids. And 3. Skill levels are more important than actual weapon levels or weapon uncap levels. These are 3 pointers you generally want to know when it comes down to weapon grids, so it becomes easier to understand why certain grids are the way they are and give you a general guideline on what's important when it comes to weapon grids. Now that we know the 3 main pointers behind the weapon grids, we can talk about the 3 main types of weapon skills that weapons have, and the quote-unquote 4 skill, which will be the seraphic weapon skills. First up, we have the Magna aka Omega weapons. Omega weapon skills can be identified by the M or Omega icon at the top corner of their skills. Magna/Omega weapons get boosted by the Omega summon series, which will be Colossus, Leviathan, Yggdrasil, Tiamat, Celesta, and Luminera. Then we have the EX weapon skills. These can also be identified simply by the EX icon in the top corner of the skill. EX skills gives a boost to your attack with the same element as the weapon skill. And at last we have the normal weapon skills. Normal weapon skills tend to have nothing in the corner or a number mark to showcase the type of normal skill. Normal skills are boosted by the primal series summons, which will be Agni, Varuna, Titan, Zeph, Hades, and Zeus. Then as a subcategory, we have the seraphic weapons aka the 4 skill. Seraphic weapons can be recognized by their respective skill look, as there aren't more seraphic weapons available. Seraphic weapons boost your attack while fighting on element. For example, this will be a water team fighting a fire enemy. Now that we are aware of the different weapon skills available within the game, we can take a look at the baseline M1 weapon grids, so you guys can get an idea on how to put an M1 grid together yourselves. What's important to make an M1 grids work is using the respective summons for each element. Many players either don't use their Magna summons that they have or use different friend summons because they see a higher boost stat, which means they are completely missing out on the boost that they will benefit the most from. Now let's say you personally already own a 120% main summon, for example Alexil, then always make sure to pick a friend Magna summon, which in this case will be Yggdrasil, which most of the time can be found fully uncapped in your player list with all the random players to get the best results regarding boosts out of your weapon grid. And in case you don't don't own a 120% main summon, then make sure to use your 100% Magna summon as your main summon instead. Then pick a friend 120% summon, which fully uncapped will be a 140 and sometimes 150% lead. Now that we are aware of our summons and what to pick, we can finally look at the basic grid structure that you should follow when making an M1 grid. The basic M1 grid should look like the following: 4 to 6 M1 weapons, 1 to 2 normal weapons, which one of them will be your Bahamut weapon, and 1 to 2 EX weapons. Last but not least, we also have 1 Seraphic weapon to close off our weapon grid. This recommendation right here functions as the general M1 structure, which you can guide yourself with as you collect weapons at your own accord. It could very well be that you still need to farm a Magna weapon and already have like 2 EX weapons ready to go, or vice versa. So this basic structure allows you to mix and match as long as you hit the minimum that I stated. But since I'm doing this video anyways, I figured I'd narrow it down slightly more and make a recommended structure which is more specific when it comes down to the numbers. And that recommended structure goes as follows: a total of 5 M1 weapons, 2 EX weapons, 1 normal weapon which will be your Bahamut weapon, 1 Seraphic weapon, and 1 flexible slot, which you can fill with pretty much any weapon that you might have at the time. The reason Seraphic weapons are great weapons to have is because you can relatively easily get one of them and will be one of the bigger boosts that you can get as a beginner, as a Seraphic weapon gives you 10% damage when it's an SR, and when it's uncapped to an SSR, this raises it to the total of 20%, and where your Seraphic weapon is completely upgraded, this becomes 23%. So if everything is followed correctly within this video, we now have managed to understand what our basic grids should look like. And to make it even easier for you guys, I will close this video off by stating the recommended M1 weapons that you will want to use for every element respectively. And the recommended M1 weapons are as follows: you want your Colossus Canes for fire, your Tiamat Bolts for wind, the Leviathan Daggers for water, Yggdrasil Swords for earth, and Celestia Claws for dark. Then we have arrived at light, which is a bit more specific, as you would want your guns and harps in your weapon grid before you are able to fully uncap your swords. And the reason for this is very simple, as the swords perform worse than the guns and harps before they are uncapped. Generally speaking, the guns are better than the harps, but it's fine to mix and match. Now that we know which weapons we want to use and farm from the M1 raids, we have come to the end of today's video about the basic structure of M1 weapon grids. I know that as a beginner, grids can be quite tricky to understand, so hopefully you guys will find the information I gave today useful. And like I said earlier, if you guys do feel like you want more help regarding grids for each element, then I'll gladly make even more detailed videos for beginners to get everyone on the road. So just let me know in the comments down below if that is of any interest. If you guys want more help from me directly, or just feel like joining a place where you can meet more Granblue players to talk about the game and have fun, then I do recommend joining my Discord, which I'll provide the link for down below in the pinned comment. We have recently been growing insanely fast with the Discord, so I wanted to thank you guys for all the support on my videos and of course in my Discord, and hopefully I'll see some more of you guys there. So that was it for today's video. It was your boy Danchou. Stay healthy, stay blessed, and I'm out. Peace.